commissioners to join.
All right, well, let's get started, and then hopefully they will join us.
Christy, can you go live?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1 p.m. on Wednesday, March 10th. This is our regular monthly meeting of the District of Columbia Housing Authority being held today via WebEx video conferencing. I'm Neil Albert. I'm chair of the Board of Commissioners. I'm calling this meeting to order. I'm going to encourage all of us to have our devices on mute unless you are speaking. And for our commissioners, on the various issues, if you are interested in commenting or have a question, I'd ask you to please use the chat function to indicate your interest in doing so. As I mentioned, today is our regular monthly board meeting, and is our custom at every board meeting. I'm going to ask all of us to just observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you so much. I'd like to take this opportunity. Well, I don't see her on yet, so I'll skip that. So I'll turn it over to our secretary to establish a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Council,
Present.
Commissioner Strickland,
Present.
Commissioner Slover,
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Present.
Commissioner Tafaro,
Present.
Commissioner Von Gostry,
Present.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Ortiz-Gow,
Present.
Commissioner Falchecchio,
Present as John.
thank you. Commissioner Bessie Reeder, she hasn't joined yet. Chairman Albert,
Yep, present.
thank you. Chairman, you have 9 commissioners present. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much.
Before you
First
start,
item-
Neil, before you start,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeder just joined.
Perfect. Thank you. Let me.
My apologies. I was on a panel from 12 to 1. Please forgive me.
No. That's totally understandable. So I just want to take this opportunity to introduce you all to our newest commissioner on the Board of Commissioners. This is Dcha Reeder. She's a mayoral appointee who is replacing former Commissioner Nikisha Neal Jones, who stepped down from our board last year. Dcha brings a lot of experience in working in communities here in the District of Columbia, and particularly her work with the Far Southeast Collaborative and helping to bring Busboys and Poet, a well-needed eatery east of the river. We look forward to having her expertise here on the board, and I'm sure not just the board, but the community writ large will benefit from her presence here, or participation rather, here on the board. I am going to ask Dcha if she wants to say a few words, and then we'll go on to the rest of our program. Dcha?
Thank you so very much. And again, my apologies for being a couple of minutes late. That won't happen again, Neil. Just thank you for the opportunity to work with you guys. Looking forward to supporting the residents of the District of Columbia and being an asset to this board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we are very lucky to have you. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 10, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second.
It's motion and seconded. All those in favor
Second.
of its approval? Yeah, we got that. All those in favor of its approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. So we do, our minutes are approved. As it is our custom, we invite the public to provide comments in two sections of our meeting. One is on resolutions that are going to come before the Board of Commissioners. There is just one resolution today. And then after the resolutions are voted on, we invite the public to comment again. We've had two people sign up to bring testimony on the resolution before us, which is Resolution 2104, which will be the approval of FY 2020 Local Rent Supplement Program Awards. First on our list is Deborah Fraser. Ms. Fraser, I know you're on.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, do you want to do that before the director's report?
Now let's do the director's report first.
Oh, no,
That's
I forgot.
significant.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Executive Director. I don't want to deny you of the report.
No,
Please go ahead. My
No,
apologies.
I'll try to be as brief so we can get to Ms. Fraser. So as we
Yes, I was
possibly
excited
can.
to hear Ms. Fraser, and I overlooked you.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for not only the Board of Commissioners, but also for the public. I'm going to start off with just a quick COVID update where we're in the vaccination activity by property, where we have given and participated in giving over 1,900 doses of the vaccine to residents of the District of Columbia Housing Authority, especially at our senior buildings. Shanita, can we throw somebody on mute real quick? So from that, commissioners, we're going into the process of expanding the vaccination process with Johns Hopkins and also UMC with the partnership between the Department of Health and HCMA to be able to get into some underserved communities where we have vulnerable populations and figure out a way to administer those vaccinations to those communities, still stemming as the target population being the housing authority. So this weekend we'll be going to the Stoddard Recreation Facility, community facility, and we'll be able to administer, and the goal is to administer up to 500 doses of the vaccination this weekend, and then we'll continue on to other underserved wards as we move forward. But I think it's important to know that DCHA is in partnership with the sister agencies in our effort to get this done. It did start out as a small effort. I think DCHA has done a great job in conjunction with Johns Hopkins and also at Sibley Hospital. So I think it's important for all of us to understand what we're facing and how we're all committed to this particular challenge. So if you have any questions, any additional questions, I'll be available to answer those. We also have Hamra that's on the line. I'm not going to allow Hamra to go through it since she's already gone through it for you, but we will be publicizing the administration of the vaccination at the other sites this week. We're probably going to start really doing a huge blitz today, tomorrow, and Friday for the event on Saturday. So. Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to share, Mr. Director?
Hamra, is there anything else that's important that I might, or at least on COVID, that you think I should discuss? Okay, Hamra thinks I've hit everything. Hold on. Okay, on to the next thing. Yes, Commissioner, Mr. Chair, I have a few more things I just want to bring up that I didn't bring to your attention during the brown bag. Okay, here we go. Our modified apprentice training program we're in our third tranche this year. And what I wanted to do is give you the opportunity to hear from two trainees who have been participating in the program. They're both from Ward 7 and 8. And I think it's important that you hear their thoughts about the program itself, because we've been talking over the last few months about partnerships with other organizations, agencies, companies, corporations, contractors that will be coming through and working with the DCHA, and how we're preparing our trainees to possibly latch on and become employed by these particular individual organizations. So it's important that you know a little bit more about the program. A little bit different this year because we've been in such a virtual space. But I can tell you that the Modified Apprentice Training Program is responsible for building out the first floor space at 1133 for our return to work. So that would include the Customer Solutions Center that was created. That would also include OPS's new accommodations on the first floor, along with the Housing Choice Voucher program in their actual space, which allows for remote work as we start to return in the future months. So I think it's important for you to know that they have been working hard, getting really on the job training, and during the midst of the pandemic, they have provided a great necessity to us by getting our workspace in order and prepared for a possible return in a few months. So I have both the ATP trainee Sharina Singletary and trainee Kenta Brown just to speak to you briefly about what their experience has been thus far. And I just want them to take about 2 minutes each to talk to you.
Good afternoon. How you doing, Mr. Garrett?
Hey, good afternoon.
Can you hear me? How you doing, Mr. Albert? Good. So my name is Sharina Singletary. I'm a resident of Ward 8. I've been participating in the ATP program ever since August. And since I've been in the program, I've gained a lot of knowledge and information, but more so I gained a family. They do more than just hands-on training. And my reason for me getting into the program is because I wanted to work on the outside of the industry. I've been in property management for quite some time, so I wanted to learn how to do the maintenance portion of it so that if ever given the opportunity to be a property manager, I could be the manager that can get up and assist my team. So it's about teamwork. And they have taught us that thus far, working together. They've even separated us, put us on different projects, and it's been a very productive program.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Ms. Williams.
You're welcome, Mr. Albert.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kent Brown. I'm a proud Washingtonian as well as a resident of the Ward 7 community. I entered the apprenticeship training program through individuals that was passing out flyers that, I read the flyer and decided that this may be something that I'm very much interested in. I was working as a groundskeeper for the city of College Park. So once admitted into the apprenticeship training program, I put my 2 weeks notice in as well, and then joined the force. While in the training program, I've learned numerous skills that will not only help me here on the job, as well as in my everyday life also. Now, I pretty much enjoy every single day and look forward to coming to the training program to be with my fellow classmates, as well as the instructors. Like, to piggyback off Ms. Singletary, I've gained an extended family here with the apprenticeship training program. And would like to look forward to in the future of basically using the skills that I have, started to learn here with DC Housing Authority to further my career, as well as hopefully in the future, opening my own business with the skills that I have used. We would like to thank Mr. Garrett, Mr. Williams, Mr. Moody, for allowing us this opportunity with this apprenticeship training program, as well as we would like extended thanks to our instructors, Mr. Sam, Mr. Fowler, Mr. Tansley, as well as Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me on that. I have one more thing I want to just note to the public. Okay, and that's going to be our virtual DCHA contracting and procurement expo. So from that, this is just really on April 8th, 2021, we're going to have a public expo to talk to everyone about upcoming DCHA solicitations, meet some of our prime contractors that work with us, learn about businesses owned by DCHA residents. And that's what's most important about, I think, this expo, is that what we want is to expose DCHA owned businesses to opportunities that we may have, or opportunities to work with other prime contractors in some way, shape, or form. Also learn about how to become a vendor for some of those subcontractors that may be out there, and also learn about our DCHA Section 3 program. But I just wanted to publicly let everyone know from this point forward that we're going to be noticing this. We're going to be putting it up through social media and other venues to encourage people, especially small businesses within the district, to participate in this expo and hear about exactly what we're doing and what opportunities we have. Again, stressing that DCHA residents who may have their own business, resident-owned business, and I encourage them to give us their information so they can participate in this expo. And they should get that information over to Brian Harris, our Director of Resident Services, so that he can become aware and he can share it with the team, because this is an effort between ORS and also OAS, our Procurement Services Department, to promote and create the opportunity for this expo. So something new, something that we haven't done in the last few years, but I think it's important that we figure out a way to expose ourselves to our residents who have businesses and other contractors who have businesses and want to work with us. The last thing I just want to note, well, two last things, that our oversight hearing is on March 17th next week, beginning at 10 a.m. So people will be able to tune into that. We'll load the link onto our website to make sure anyone from the public who would like to watch can do so. In addition, we'll be providing an extensive testimony at that particular time, along with having the ability to possibly upload some information for the public to actually review when the testimony is actually completed. So I think that's a great opportunity for us. The virtual platform does allow us to do a little bit more than what we might be doing if we were all sitting in a room together. So it's a great opportunity for DCHA to showcase some things that people may not be aware that we're actually doing. And in that same vein, going into today's meeting, I know that we have some individuals from the public that would like to have comments. And it's most times it's customary for DCHA to allow, and the chair and the board to allow residents to make statements. And we clearly understand that, because I come from that Sears and Roebuck world where the customer is always right. But at this particular time, I asked the chairman to indulge me and indulge my team and allow us to, briefly respond to some comments or some concerns that residents may actually raise today. And the reason I want to do that is because I want the board and the public to know that DCHA works on their behalf. This is not an organization or an agency that just sits on its hands and does nothing. We're the big, I've said this and I've started to say this a lot more, we are the biggest advocate on behalf of the residents of the District of Columbia who are looking for opportunities for who are looking for opportunities for housing. And I don't take anything away from the sister agencies, because they're working in conjunction with us, we're working in conjunction with them. But when it comes down to advocating on behalf of the residents of the DCHA, the biggest advocate stands before you, which is our staff and our team. And I don't want anyone from the public to believe that we don't work on their behalf. So the chairman has given me the opportunity and my team the chance to take a couple of minutes to just present, some commentary, some response to some of the comments that might be made by residents, so that you know exactly where we stand and what we're actually doing on behalf of the agency. And I appreciate that chance. Thank you. I have nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Executive Director, and thanks for the good work that you and your team are doing, particularly the apprenticeship program. Mr. Williams, thanks, congrats on a job well done. So we have two folks who've signed up to testify on the resolution at hand. First is Ms. Frazier. Deborah, can you hear us? Deborah Frazier? Deborah? All right,
I'm unmuted. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead, Ms. Frazier. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Comments on the director's report. When the director said that you're expanding to underserved communities, who is that and what does that mean? And secondly, the apprenticeship program, the folks have spoken. What are they being trained on? Will there be others eligible for the apprenticeship program? How do you choose people? And will they get a certificate to say that they have been through this program?
I'll get a certificate, they work.
Ms. Frazier, in reference to the ATP program, they go through a selection process where they make an application, and then there's a panel that reviews the applications, because we can't take everyone. So we do pare it down somewhat. But they go through a process, and there are really no stringent criteria. We know that people from our communities have situations that they have gone through. So we try our best to take everyone, as many people as we possibly can. Yes, there will be a continuation of this particular program, and they do receive not only a certificate, but they also receive recommendations from us if we're
Yes.
to vendors and contractors that are out there looking for individuals that we have.
Wonderful.
And
So,
then your other question was
oh,
on the vaccinations. I'm sorry. We're expanding
yes.
towards 7. We're trying to expand towards 7 and 8 in conjunction with the city's effort to expand the vaccination program. So I know 7 and 8 are where we're headed over the next few weeks.
Okay, great. Should I go to resolutions? Should
Yes.
I comment on the resolutions?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so on resolution 2104, my questions are these. One, it seems that the RFP, there was an RFP from DHCD issued in 2019, and then there were proposals in 2020, and now the board is being asked to give Housing Authority ability to distribute it, to administer these funds in 2021. So I'm confused about a process that started in 2019, and now the funds are being ordered in 2021. I'm confused about what's the lag on that. That's my first question. And does DCHA get 7.6% administrative fees? Is that from each agency or from the contract as a whole that was awarded to DHCD? Those are my two questions. And how much is the total contract, or what is Housing Authority's percentage in dollars for 7.6%?
Great. All those questions will be answered during the presentation. Do you have any other comments on the resolution?
Yeah. So there's another comment is there's a statement in there that talks about supplying housing. What does that mean? Are they supplying housing, building housing, finding housing? What does supplying housing mean? So I'll wait for the you all to explain it after the resolution gets done. Those are my questions.
Thank you so much, Deborah, as usual. And the team will be responding to your questions during their presentation. Next up is Karen Settles. Ms. Settles. Ms. Settles, are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Settles, we can hear you.
I can't hear you.
We could hear you.
All right. So I'd like to say hello to everyone. I haven't gotten to see you, Mr. Albert, Mr. Mr. Garrett, or any of the commissioners since this pandemic, actually. My concerns are that I haven't seen you, one. And the other concern I have, can you hear me, Mr. Chairperson?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you well, Taryn.
I have concerns about the transparency as it relates to resident leaders. As the citywide advisory board, I've been asked some really tough questions that I can't answer because of I would say lack of transparency and having connection with the housing authority. This pandemic has actually challenged all of us in how we communicate. One of my concerns is even having access to getting into this hearing. I had asked to speak once before when I learned that, that you were having the commissioner meetings, and I wasn't able to get in at that time. And I'm so happy to say that I got in this time. But in doing that, I speak for other leaders as far as information is concerned. And this is a great vehicle for us to communicate, but I don't feel that the communication is really coming the way it should with the questions that I'm being asked. So I would ask that those same considerations that Mr. Garrett just got finished speaking about customer service as far as residents are concerned, and providing those spaces where residents can have questions answered and access to the housing authority. I ask this as far as the lifting of this public health pandemic. I need to know whether the housing authority has any idea of when we can start face to face. Will this virtual connection continue? And it's other questions, but I'll actually write that in. But at this time, I think it's crucial that I ask the question to have access, actually, to you, the chair, and then to Mr. Garrett. But I'd like to meet with you, Mr. Albert first.
Sure.
It's some clarity that we have to make with regards to how we move forward. This pandemic has redefined a lot of things, and I don't want us to pass those things up. I heard the gentleman speak very highly of the apprenticeship program, which I know to be a good program. I also need us to remember that we also have an existing apprenticeship program that is in the District of Columbia that's a very vibrant program that our people don't always have access to. And I would ask that the housing authority connect with that city apprenticeship program so that those who are not able to come to or be a part of the housing authority's apprenticeship program, that they can take the opportunity to be a part of the city apprenticeship program, because it has broader implications. And I say that because my son is a graduate of the city apprenticeship program, and he's now over 25 years a journeyman electrician. So I'm very proud to say that from that program, he ended up he went to the apprenticeship program first, and then he graduated from college. So there are wide opportunities out there for residents beyond what the housing authority has room for. That's the only thing I'm saying, that we may not have room for everybody, but we do have an extension to the city program.
Right.
Some of the other things are upcoming business and transparency as far as the resident elected commissioners. I'd be remiss if I got off before I said that during this pandemic was a major opportunity for transparency between the resident elected commissioners as well as the rest of the commissioners, to have a connection as for needs and other things that, and I'm not saying they have not, but as the city, opportunity to be able to speak with those commissioners on matters that are crucial to all of us as leaders and partners to the housing authority. So those are just a few of my concerns. The last thing I'll say is the resolutions. I've always taken pride in understanding and reading the resolutions. I didn't have that opportunity this time, and I actually do have a full schedule. Not your fault, but the fact is that I did try to go online to get the resolutions actually Monday, and they were not there. I would now ask for a copy of those resolutions, so I will be able to weigh in on them.
Great.
Thank you so much. And I need to meet the new commissioners.
Yeah, so Karen, here's what we'll do. I'm going to ask Alethea to set up a meeting between the two of us.
Okay.
We can either do it by Skype or Zoom or whatever the technology is, or
Sure.
if you're amenable for a socially distant outside meeting, I'm happy to come to you, but Alethea will work with you to set that up. And then in terms of the citywide apprenticeship program, you raised a really great idea. I don't know to what extent DCHA works with the citywide program, but that's something that we will follow up on. So thanks for flagging that. And then in terms of timely posting of the resolutions, I'm hoping that we're getting better at that, but we'll continue to be on top of that. So, but hopefully we'll be able to get together. You and I will be able to get together soon and hear some of the other issues that you have. So, but thanks for taking time today to provide testimony. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So let's move into a resolution. Resolution is Resolution 2104, which will approve the fiscal year 2020 local rent supplement program awarded projects to support the creation of affordable housing in the District of Columbia. We have with us two important guests, Connie Donaldson, who is the Director of the Department of DHCD, and Sega, who is our Chief of Staff. We're going to start with them so they can give you the background to this resolution and then answer a number of the questions that were raised by both Deborah and Karen today. So Director Donaldson, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I do ask, I believe there's a PowerPoint that will be shared. Is that correct?
Yes, Andre has the
Yes.
PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just to note, this resolution has been revised to reflect Commissioner Slover's remarks regarding 30% AMI.
Great, thank you.
Great. Well, to set the scene for you, and I think some of you may have heard this earlier today or at the committee meeting last week, but DHCD runs a consolidated notification of opportunities for funding. That's what the NOFA means. And through that, the local rent supplement program is a really key resource that helps us be able to fund affordable housing at the very lowest income levels. And that's a priority of the Bowser administration. It's a priority for how we address our homeless and formerly homeless residents and provide safe and secure housing with wraparound services. To be able to afford that, we need the local rent supplement program. And I speak to you as one who, just in case you don't know, before I was director of DHCD, I also was an affordable housing and homeless housing developer and provider who actually accessed the local rent supplement program in its early years. So I'm very familiar with it, and I know how integral and critical it is for the development of affordable housing here in the district. And I know we at DHCD greatly value our partnership with the Housing Authority on this, and we do look forward to it. But I want to explain some of how this works because I know there was a question on the timing. So yes, an RFP was issued in 2019. We were very much seeing a robust demand for development dollars as well as for operating subsidy to help reach that. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the reason we call it a consolidated RFP is that it combines funding sources from across the district government as well as some federal government funding sources. Just briefly, as you know, we have a housing production trust fund for which certainly in the last 6 years has been funded very robustly by Mayor Bowser and by approval of the council to the tune of $100 million a year for financing of affordable housing. That actually, if you add it up over the last 6 years, has been $500 million that has gone into the creation of the production of thousands of units, as well as the preservation of a number of thousands of existing affordable housing, because we need to do both produce and preserve. But to do that for the very lowest income, we know these developments need operating subsidy, and that's what the local rent supplement program gives us. That's a local program modeled on the federal Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher program, where vouchers are tied to specific development projects for an extended period of time, in this case 15 years, in order to ensure that that housing remains affordable for that period of time and very frequently onwards as well. We also combine Department of Behavioral Health funds as well as Department of Human Services case management supportive services funding in order to make sure that we're providing the most stable, safe environment for some of our most vulnerable residents in the district. Of course, we're also doing green building financing as one tool of the many tools in our toolkit to enable us to create this housing. For the federal funds, we use a variety of sources, some from HUD, including the Community Development Block Grant, as well as the Home Investment Partnership Program. And those help, again, for particularly the under 30% of AMI housing for our most vulnerable residents. In addition, the U.S. Treasury Department also sponsors the low-income housing tax credits, which we administer in conjunction with the DC Housing Finance Agency. They do the 4% credits, DHCD administers the 9% credits. They're really important. They provide a multiplier effect to help build the tax equity in these projects, which make our local dollars go even farther. And then finally, there's the new National Housing Trust Fund that finally has gotten funded by the Congress, and we do anticipate in the Biden administration it will be continue to be more robustly funded. If I could have the next slide, please. So how do we determine once we receive applications? And we received 33 applications in the round in 2019, in the fall of 2019. We evaluated those projects over the next 3 to 4 months into 2020, but we all know what happened a year ago in 2020. We were able to designate some that were meeting threshold because we have a series of criteria that all applications need to follow, and that's how they're evaluated, by how they meet the threshold. And then we go on to look at how they best accomplish the policy objectives of the administration and of what the district needs for affordable housing. So we did have 33 projects that received threshold, and then of those, I'm getting the exact number for you. We knew when the pandemic hit that we were going to have uncertainty in terms of funding. And so because we did not know, for example, the FY21 budget process was postponed for several months, because we did not know that, we did not select projects immediately to answer Ms. Fraser's questions of why this has lagged, if you will. It is in part because our hands were tied. We needed to know what those future resources were going to be before we committed them. At the same time, we knew that we had in the FY20 budget the LRSP funding, and that's why we came to you last spring, almost a year ago, to ask for only LRSP for 2 projects in particular that were going to help some of our lowest income residents in the city. And you all, the Board of Commissioners, did approve it, and that really helped get those projects underway and under construction. So now we're coming to you, and I guess next slide would be good. Now we're coming to you because we have announced in June that that we were going to be able to, once the FY20 budget passed, that we were going to be able to make additional project selections. And Mayor Bowser selected, upon recommendation from the Department of Housing and Community Development, and I make the ultimate decision there, Mayor Bowser announced the funding of 10 projects to build and preserve 940 homes. So some are production of new units and some are preserving existing units. And we look to create a balance of that because we know we need both. All of this is to get towards Mayor Bowser's goal of creating 36,000 units of housing, new units of housing in the district by the year 2025, of which 12,000 will be affordable. Next slide, please. And so also what enabled us to make some of these funding decisions this year and why we're ready to bring this resolution to you today for the local rent supplement program. The total amount of the resolution, which is $5.3 million, reflects the entire package of 8 projects that will be accessing the local rent supplement program for their operating subsidy for their units, the apartment units that will be for the lowest income residents of the district. But why are we able to do this in part now is because we've been able to garner some additional resources, in part because of federal action. In the stimulus bill that was approved in December of 2020, the low-income housing tax credit now has a 4% floor. What that has done is created a lot more equity that goes into these projects. That means fewer local resources are needed per project, and we're able to stretch those dollars further. In addition, we, the Department of Housing and Community Development, together with DEMPED, together applied for a special program at HUD, the Section 108 Loan Fund, where we leverage our community development block grant funds, and we're able to borrow against them, if you will. And in this case, we have applied to HUD for a revolving loan fund, primarily for preservation, for the $38.8 million. So what that does mean is that we're again able to stretch our housing production trust fund dollars more, because we can supplant the dollars that we had dedicated to those preservation projects and use this Section 108 loan fund instead. Next slide, please. So here are the projects before you today. Again, a total of 738 units all told across the district in a variety of wards, wards 4, 5, 6, and 8. And of which 200, a little over 207 would be using the local rent supplement operating subsidy. So we can see these are, I think, well-qualified projects that are truly going to help, that are geographically distributed, and will go a long way towards helping to achieve the goal that Mayor Bowser has set for us. So I'm delighted to be able to answer any questions, Mr. Chair, and or members of the commission. Please, I look forward to that. Although I do believe that actually I want to hand off, because I think there are a couple more slides that explain what specifically the DC Housing Authority role is in helping to implement these projects and housing. So may I turn it over to the Housing Authority? Thank you, staff.
Great. Senthil or?
So that's going to be Andre Gould.
Andre.
Mr. Chair is going to step up and complete the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, as Director Donaldson said, that the LRSP program serves residents from 0 to 30% AMI. There will be a 15-year subsidy contract in place after DC Council approval. And the subsidy cannot exceed the submarket. That's where DCHA comes in. We as administrators of the program, we make sure that the rents that the developers have selected do not exceed the submarket rents. DHCD makes the award determinations, and we administer the voucher subsidy. Today, our board will provide approval for DCHA to administer the operating subsidy, and then we'll forward each project as it's ready. Each of the 10 projects are in different stages, and as our team works with each one of the development teams, we'll move forward with moving those projects forward. As you can see on this slide, we're at stage 1, where our Board of Commission provides approval, and then we'll work with each one of the developers to provide a rent determination letter and put together a preliminary contract that's part of the council package that's submitted to DC Council for approval and funding awards.
Okay. Thank you, Andre.
Great. So I'm going to see if any of our commissioners have any questions before we put this to a vote. Got to have one question.
I just want something more.
Commissioner Slover?
I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the opportunity to ask a few questions. Just so it's clear, DCHA's role is, as I heard it, is to basically to size and administer the subsidies for these projects. That's our role.
Yes,
Correct?
it's administration of the actual subsidies, the applications and the inspections, and just the same as how the HCV is administered similarly.
We had no role in the action process of the recipients.
No, there is a role for each of the funders that I had on the screen there that were from the different parts of the district government. Each has a representative on the committee that receives the recommendations from the DHCD staff, and opportunities for opinion is certainly offered. The final selection, though, is done by me, and so in that sense, correct, they don't have a role in the actual selection, but they do get to advise when during the project review.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. In the resolution, you refer to the fee that DCHA will receive. It's 7.6% of the total amount. Is that correct?
I believe it's done process, although Director Garrett might be able to answer this better. I believe it's done by assignment on the individual as each voucher is processed. So there's a percent taken on that, I believe, unless it is, I don't know, Director Garrett, can you clarify that, please?
Actually, you're correct. Director Donaldson, you're correct.
So as each voucher is processed, a fee is taken on that.
Yes.
So the way it's been presented to us is that there's a fixed fee, and it says here in the resolution, DCHA receives a fee equal to 7 6/10% of the LRSP contract amount to be administered. Is that not the case?
No, I think that's exactly what I said, that they receive it per voucher, per the contracts. The vouchers are, explicit number of vouchers are named in the contract.
But is the fee 7.6%?
Yes.
Yes.
Because we were in a meeting earlier this month, and it was indicated to us that the city was going to reduce the fee to 6% for the program. Is that not the case?
John, Sarah, our CFO, John, when we were talking about that reduction, that was in reference to the local program, tenant-based, correct?
Right. So
right. So we're talking about two different programs, Commissioner Slover.
Correct.
That was tenant-based, and not this particular.
So this
process.
program, they'll say it's 7.6%.
Yes, sir.
And what do we get paid to do the federal program?
About 10%, Commissioner.
And is the work the same amount? I mean, is it the same basic? In other words, the administration the same for the federal program as it is for the local program?
On the voucher side, yes.
So we're getting paid
less,
significantly more to run the federal program than the local program?
Yes, sir.
And annually that equates to millions of dollars, probably?
Yeah, we estimated $1.4 to $2 million. We're still working on a more accurate assessment, but that's what we're looking at. And just for distinction, the program with a reduction in admin fees is called FRSP, as opposed to this one, which is LRSP.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would just like for Dolly to put on these minutes, on our Board of Commissioner minutes, the dialogue we had in brown bag stating that, A, she would recommend that a link will go, that DCHA and us would do a link so that it could really go on site, so that public housing residents can also know how to benefit from these programs, even though we are residents of public housing, that we are eligible to apply.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. If I could, what I mentioned specifically was to put a link on the DCHA website to the dcchurch.org website that DHCD administers, that actually has both the affordable housing units that we help fund, but also other landlords units that are available in the city through that site.
And Dolly, I don't, I know that I deal with a lot of your constituents as well, especially with Robin McKenna, one of your newest ANC commissioners, and she and I had a dialogue, and I don't know how to do this because I don't know how to make public housing residents more transparent than we ever been under any direct of the history of the housing authority. So I don't know whether for Tyrone, I'm going to ask you again, Maybe you need to reach out to AmeriCorps Vista. See, there are some housing authorities that do have AmeriCorps, and maybe AmeriCorps need to come in, get the phone numbers of those who constantly complain and don't know about transparency, because it's true. So once you get these phone calls and monitor this, then we should have this transparency situation a little less. Even though we're the 9th largest housing authority, when I'm on commissioner lines and I'm talking to the other 8 largest housing authority above me, I don't understand why our public housing residents are having such a hard time in comparison to listening to what I'm hearing from the National Line of HUD tenants residents who are our same residents. So something we're doing wrong at DCHA that our residents can never comprehend, never understand, never can get connected, and most of it is true when they have to deal with our central office. So maybe, once again, as I stated, maybe the navigators, if they're not afraid, can knock on some doors and stand 6 feet apart and get a list of people who are having these difficulties so that we can solve this problem. And then once we do that, then that's all we can do.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions from any other commissioners?
Can I finish up on my question that I was trying to get to? I just wanted to get from the staff whether the 7.6% is a fee that is profitable to us, and whether it's that difference between the 7.6 and the 10% is a problem for us. Whether this is benefiting us the way it should be. I realize we get the housing and all, but we also need to run our agency.
Yeah, Mr. Garrett, I hope you heard the question.
Yes, I heard the question. I mean,
can I take it, Mr. Garrett? Can I answer this question?
Yeah, I don't know, Commissioner Slover, did you have something else you wanted to say before we started to answer?
I mean, it's a stark difference in fee, and it's the same exact work, and so I just want to make sure that.
So you can always, I mean, commissioners, you can always use more. So, but one thing that Commissioner Slover, you did say is that this is a partnership between 2 sister agencies, and we're trying to, the main goal is to provide housing opportunities and create them as quickly as possible. But, John, from a financial standpoint, probably will, clearly state that, additional dollars can always be used. So, John.
But is the cost to administer the program covered by the fee? Great. So in addition to having the cost covered, we have a number of units of affordable housing that get produced in the process.
John?
Yeah. So we are putting together an estimate to reflect exactly whether this fee is sufficient or not. But what I want to point out here is I believe the district has mistakenly thought that our staffing cost is the only cost associated with running the program. And that's why they reduced our fee on the other side of the program. And that's why also I believe our percentage is 7.6 on this one. We have to look for all the factors involved here. I mean, we do have the staffing involved for both programs, and we can provide their cost. But I believe we need to look for other factors as well. I was looking and researching the cost of commercial square foot in DC, and it is between $50 to $70 per square foot. So we need to include in our estimate, and that's what we're working on, the cost of actually having the staff working on those programs, and how much does that equate in dollar amounts. Having them work on desks and basically occupy a certain square footage. Also their utilities share, and their office supplies expenses. So we're trying to put something together that shows the comprehensive expense. To give you a short answer, Commissioner, right now we don't know if this is profitable or not, but that's only because we have just factored the staff cost, or I would say that the district factored only the staff cost on this. But it may very well not be profitable. once we put all the costs together.
Yeah, so I appreciate that analysis, and I think it's certainly worth doing. And so please share it with us when you have the opportunity. Commissioner Falchecchio, you wanted to add something?
No, I mean, I think that if we're going to study how the program is administered, it's important to make sure that we're also studying not just if costs are covered, but actually are we carrying it out as most efficiently as possible. That I think is the challenge at hand, not whether the way we're doing it, if the costs are covered, but also is the way that we're doing this the most efficient way to do it. That would be most valuable in terms of analysis of the program and the current structure.
Right. And what I can contribute here to this conversation is that since the voucher program at the district was relatively new, and since the federal program was relatively old, in the federal program, they had better controls, I would say, and reporting standards. And I believe the district is catching up. So this year they have asked us for a very similar kind of data and also control metrics. So I believe the district is doing a great job at catching up and running the program in a very similar way to the federal program. Of course, this puts more pressure on us because we have now to produce those numbers for the district, which again goes back to the admin fees.
Thanks, John.
I just wonder if there's a capture in this thing, you know, as we try to make sure we're not losing money on this program. You know, unlike the city, we don't have the benefit of tax revenue. We have to make our own way here as an agency, and we need to definitely not lose money, but also we need to make money to support the rest of our mission and the rest of our stuff. And a lot of this excess money goes to supporting traditional public housing, and a lot of the stuff significantly underfunded by the federal government. And so every dollar we leave on the table, every dollar we leave on the table is a dollar we can't get anywhere else. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity. I don't know who's in the background there. I wonder if there's an opportunity to sort of put into this resolution that we have an opportunity to re-examine the 7.6% and make sure that it's a fair deal.
And I think that's,
Chairman,
yes, go ahead.
I mean, I'd take it a step further and say, is this the most efficient way to execute the program? Because it shouldn't just be about whether 7.6% is the right number, but is there a better way to, that's what we should really analyze. Is there a better way to carry this out that provides the transparency to all stakeholders and also gets us to a place where this is administered efficiently? So I don't know if that means it would have to be a joint effort by DHCD and the Housing Authority to hash that out, and maybe even, I don't know, Department of Human Services or other partners in this. But I think that would be worthwhile, because I think, to Commissioner Slover's point, the board should know if this is something that the Housing Authority is subsidizing, or if it's better for this to live somewhere else.
Great. Any other questions from any other commissioners? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution, which is Resolution 2104. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Madam Secretary, can we get a roll call on this?
Thank you. Commissioner Strickland?
Yes.
Commissioner Falchecchio?
Yes.
Commissioner Council?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman? I'm sorry, I didn't get your response. I see your lips moving, but I think you're on mute. Commissioner Hoffman?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortiz-Gal?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bussey Reader?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Gossary?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Gossary? Thank you. Commissioner Talaferro? Commissioner Talaferro, are you there? I'll circle back.
Can you
Commissioner
hear me?
Slover?
Yeah, we
Can
can
you hear
hear
me
Yes, I
now?
can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
what is your,
said yes.
thank you. Commissioner Slover?
My vote no.
Chairman Albert?
absolutely yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, you had 8 yes, 2 no. The resolution is approved.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you, Director and Sega. Thank you so much for being at our board meeting today. You're welcome to stay on if you'd like for the rest of it, but I know you have other things to do. But you're always welcome to be a part of our board meeting. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, and to members of the public, and of course to the DCHA staff. We really appreciate working with you on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so next on our agenda, we are going to go to public testimony. Again, if you're a resident, you have 5 minutes. We're going to be strict with the time today. And if you're a non-resident, 3 minutes. First up is Vicki Harris. Vicki Harris. Okay, while we wait on Vicki Harris, Pat Malloy. I know I saw Miss Malloy.
Everyone,
Hi, Miss Malloy.
how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I have a few concerns. First of all, from the February's meeting, Chair Albert, someone was supposed to get back with me so that we could have a little meeting, and that did not happen. Also, I want to thank Andre, Brittany, and Ms. Jeter. The new community initiative, the flyers for the workshops were delivered to the property on Monday. The concern that I have with that, and John Pacheco, excuse me if I pronounce your name wrong, there is one concern that's bothering me about the distribution of flyers. Under the new community initiative, we have a service provider. My concern is, with all that the laborers have to do, why is it they have to spend time distributing flyers door to door, apartment, when we have a service provider that was given a grant agreement to do outreach on Lincoln Heights and Richardson property? To me, our laborers need to spend more time cleaning the grounds and cleaning the buildings, because we have residents that are saying the buildings are not being cleaned. But they were given a task, and I don't know who decided that, but if that's what the agency want to do, that's fine. Why are you making your laborers do something that providers were given money for? Also, the make-ready units on the property. Letters were supposed to go out in regards to the make-ready units. I have not seen those letters, and neither have the residents. They haven't seen those letters. And my last concern, due to the relocation to the offsite, when we got the flyers in regards to the workshops that we're going to have, I would like for Mr. Williams or Mr. Garrett to explain to me, for the residents who have arrears in rent, whose responsibility is it to make the repayment agreement if the courts are closed? Now, within 3 to 4 months, the strand in the Providence place will be ready. But if the residents have an outstanding balance, they're not going anywhere, because no one is trying to help them to resolve some of their issues. It's a lot that I need to say, but I would like to have a meeting with Brian Harris, Brian Pugh, and Mr. Williams in regards to Homes for Hope. They have not been on the property since November. They have an apartment 315 50th Street. I would like for DCHA to either ask them, why is it they are not in 315? It's only one case manager and she can be in there one day a week. I'm the one that's having to figure out how to get services to the residents. And it's not fair to me. It's not fair to the manager. When you have a service provider, they need to be on the property at least once a week. There's so much is getting ready to take place. I have had 13 residents come to me since Monday, since they got the flyer. It's a lot. I could go on and on. And right, you all know this every month I've been on this call. You all just don't know. It's a lot going on behind the scene that Mr. Garrett, Mr. Williams, Brian Harris, you all should know. I know we're in the pandemic.
So Ms. Malloy, thanks so much for sharing those concerns. And I'm sorry that the meeting you requested last month did not occur. I'm going to ask Alethea to work with my schedule to make sure that that happens so that you and I could have our meeting. Again, my apologies for that. And then Mr. Garrett, Ms. Malloy is also requesting a meeting with you and members of the team, and I'm sure he's going to respond to you. So,
and can we have OGC respond to the court? Because to my knowledge, the court is not closed. They
right.
You have to do what you have to do online and make appointments. That's
just let him respond. So, Mr. Garrett, do you want to respond to that? I was going to ask you to respond to the payment issue.
I actually wasn't going to respond to payment. I was going to leave that up to Mr. Williams and OGC. But Mr. Chair, in reference to the flyers, Ms. Malloy, it's a program being run by the Housing Authority. That's our program. So that's why our team passed out the flyers. One of the other reasons why I wanted to make sure it was done this way was because I wanted to make sure every single resident received the flyer. I didn't want any question about whether or not information was disseminated to our residents via a third party, so to speak, because they're not working on behalf of the DCHA. So we can't necessarily give them direction, but I can direct my team to go out and ensure that everyone is noticed and knows about the meeting. So that's why that took place. Okay, and we do that not only at Lincoln, but we do that at other properties too, because you get put in these positions like this where people say they didn't get information. I want to make sure that information was disseminated appropriately, so we control that. Mr. Williams, do you want to speak about the payments?
So I wasn't sure if I understood the question regarding the payment agreements. From the Housing Authority's perspective, the property manager in the HMA is to contact residents that need payment arrangements with us. But I didn't understand the connection with the court. So can you elaborate a little bit?
Okay, but from my understanding, with the repayment agreement, it must be an agreement made through the court in order for it to be withstanding for the residents to be relocated off the property. Maybe I'm wrong. That's why I said we all need to come together, because the flyer that was put out to the residents, it says, and I don't know if you all have a copy in front of you, but it says, if outstanding balance is owed to DCHA, residents must enter into a tenant payment agreement and remain current on the payments. Now, if you don't make the payment, if you don't make the agreement until April or May, what is that saying?
So Ms. Malloy, the payment agreement is made with the Housing Authority. And so it's not a payment arrangement that needs to be made with the court. So if residents are aware that they have back rent, that's an agreement within the Housing Authority. So they need to make that agreement with the property management office.
But I've been told by residents that the manager, third party hand, the residents are saying, management said they have to get a clarification on how these rental payments are to be made.
Ms. Malloy, I'll address that with the property management staff, but I also will set a separate meeting with you to make sure that you have a full understanding as well.
And
Commissioner Falchecchio?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
No, go ahead, Greg.
And to be clear, there's no legal requirement regarding repayment agreements being made in court. I'm not sure where that comes from, but that there's nothing like that exists.
John, I'll check you.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Malloy, definitely thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your advocacy. I know that the Strand residences are making progress, as well as Progression Place. Want to make sure that the team has followed up with you. I know there was a conversation about what was to happen with the retail in the residences at the Strand. So I just wanted to see if the team had circled back with you since the last time we talked.
They have. The Wanton Group have.
Okay, fantastic. And then I know an item for this board that we talked about at the end of last year is the DCHE and its the possibility of it providing tax credits for advancing the theater, the Strand Theater, and the retail that'll go there, the restaurant that'll go there. So I wonder, Chairman, I'm sure the board isn't, or the staff isn't prepared right now to give an update. But if we can make sure that DCHE is with us in April in order to get that readout, that would be helpful.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Falchecchio, at this point in time, DCHE has not received a new allocation.
I think at the end of the year, it was talked about being March or April.
No, it's actually April. And thus far, we have not received any indication of a new allocation as of yet.
It's okay. It's slid a month. Okay. If we maybe get an update from DCHE at the next board meeting, that would be helpful because I promised Commissioner Malloy that we would make sure that we deliver on that promise to get the restaurant there for the residents who are moving into the Strand residence and Progression Place by this fall. So we really need DCHE to step up and fulfill that commitment that it would help advance that project.
Thank you, John. Bill?
I would just like to give this is for another time, but in response to that, I'd just like to understand DCHE and DCHA's relationship. So could we get that as part of that presentation from DCHE?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Malloy. Good to see you, and we'll make sure that our meeting is set up. Next up is Adrian Herbert. Adrian Herbert. Going once, going twice. Let's call Denise Blackson.
Chairman Albert, she had to attend another meeting. She sent me a message.
Thank you. Paulette Matthews. We must be having technical issues. Ms. Matthews, can you hear us? Okay, I'll come back. Detrice Belt.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Detrice Belt. I'm the chair of the Berry Farms Tenants and Allies. I'm just following up from, I guess, last month's board. I just want to know if there's any updates on Berry Farm. Did we really get a clear message about what we're doing with the historic pieces that are there that are left? So yeah, I just wanted to know about Berry Farm.
Thank you. I'm going to ask our executive director to respond.
Hey, Andre, can you give the Berry Farm update for me? Please.
Sure. And specifically, her question about the historic piece, the 5 buildings that have been preserved. We're going to be working with the residents when we get to a point where we to work with you to figure out exactly how we're going to preserve those buildings and bring them back. Right now, we just save them so that they replace the roofs, put fencing around them, just to preserve them till we get to that point. We're working on moving forward with a phase 1B, which will be a senior building, which will include a total of 108 units. 77 of those will be replacement units for Berry Farm. We'll provide an update as we move closer to securing the financing. We're currently working with DMPED to figure out the gap financing. They're currently underwriting that first phase. And when we have more information, we'll come forward with that. But the zoning for the project is still, we're working through that as well. We need zoning to be approved. The Office of Planning has proposed a text and map amendment that would pretty much allow us to move forward with the small area plan that was set forth for Berry Farm in 2006. And it would provide up to 900 overall units for the entire site. But we'll continue to provide more updates to you as things materialize. And we expect, if everything falls into place, to move forward with that senior building this year. But we'll continue to provide updates. There will be a meeting at the end of this month for Berry Farm residents. So look out for an invite for that meeting so that you can receive further information.
And I'm going to ask that, Tony, the way we're handling the other redevelopment projects with our monthly meeting, I think we should go back to that, Andre. I think we should follow that same process with Barry. Even if there's not much to report on a monthly basis, I think it should be coordinated and set up so the residents don't have to come to the actual board meeting to find out information.
I think
So
that's
let's
a
go
great
ahead.
idea.
Let's go ahead and follow the game plan that we're using for the other redevelopment projects with the monthly meetings, such as Greenleaf.
Thank you so much. There's a question from Ann Hoffman, Commissioner Hoffman.
Two questions. One is there an overall plan now for the Berry Farm development?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the other is, I've seen that in some of the senior buildings, there's an issue because in the former residence, the senior lived with an extended family. And in the new buildings, only the senior is allowed. Is that what's happening at the Berry Farm senior building as well?
It would be the leaseholder, ma'am. So whoever was the original leaseholder would be returning. Now, if they had an accommodation such as a live-in aid or an additional family member based on circumstances, that individual would be allowed to return. It's based on the family composition when they left.
But only.
So so my point is, if it's a senior building, and the senior is returning to that particular location, and on their actual lease, they had an individual that was living with them, such as a live-in aid, that would be allowed for, and they would be able to return with that live-in aid or that family member that was living with them for support. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great. And I suggest that you, at some point in time, get a briefing from the team on the status of Berry Farm. Great. This question from Slover.
Just following up on that response, if there's a plan for Berry Farm, when will it be completed?
The plan itself, Commissioner Slover, or the
yes,
project?
if there was a plan for the full Berry Farm, and so I'm wondering if there is a plan, when is it anticipated it'll be finished?
So, Commissioner, this is Senthil Sankaran, Office of Capital Programs. So, as Andre had indicated, right now the focus is on the phase 1, which is where we are currently doing infrastructure work, utilizing funds from the deputy mayor's office, for a grant, via grant. And the developer is aiming to close. Actually, Andre, do you know that? Can you speak to the time frame on that, on the first project of that? So, I mean, this is going to be a phased development that will still take time to develop. It's just a matter of, like, right now we're focused on bringing back residents as soon as possible to the footprint.
So how long
Andre,
will
can
it be
you give a
for
little
phase
bit
one?
of context as to the timing on for the phase 1B senior project you were mentioning? Andre, I think you're on mute if you're trying to speak.
I'm sorry. If everything goes right with zoning and the text and map amendment is approved, we would move forward with going to financial closing, probably into Q3, Q4 of this year.
Okay.
And then when would the units be delivered?
In approximately 18 months after that.
You're only working on this phase. There's no other movement on any other phases.
Well, we are moving forward with infrastructure for the first phase of Berry Farm. That work is currently going on, and it supports the Sumner Road, which would allow development of Phase 1B, which is a senior building, and Phase 1A, which is a family building as well. And that infrastructure along Sumner Road would allow both of those projects to proceed.
So I think it would be great if you could present to the board at some point for past this on a number of occasions, an overview of the Berry Farm and the timeline to complete the entire project.
Yeah, let's do that at an upcoming DevMod meeting, please.
I didn't want it right here. I'm saying I hope we can get it.
Yeah, I'm asking for it too, so hopefully it'll happen. Commissioner Falchecchio.
I was just going to ask for that because I think 1B, the senior building, is supposed to start this year. Supposed to break ground because I believe that infrastructure work will be done. But instead of me guessing at it, maybe we should just have it at DevMod. So, but I think the reason why I wanted to mention what is being referred to as 1B, the senior building, it is slated to start this year. So that's important. Just wanted to make sure we didn't close this conversation without that. And I don't know if it's Sentinel or Andre, but if you can confirm that that's still the case here, that would at least maybe carry us until we get back to DevMod.
Simply yes.
That is correct, Deputy Mayor, and that's in line with what Andre had just spoken about, how once zoning is achieved, we should be able to get to a closing by, I think it's end of Q3 or early Q4, which will be a meaningful milestone in terms of bringing residents back to the footprint of Berry Farm.
Okay. Right. Well, it might be good to hash out in the presentation to DevMod is whether zoning is needed to get 1B started, because I'm not sure if that's my understanding.
Yes, it is needed.
Is zoning needed to do the infrastructure work?
No.
And that's started already?
Yes, that's in progress.
That's the DevMod. We'll make sure to lay out what work is being done for infrastructure currently and where dollars are being expended on that Sumner Road portion that Andre was speaking to.
Appreciated questions, commissioners. We will have a DevMod meeting that deals with this subject. I just want to give our residents an opportunity to get their issues heard. So next we'll call Omar Mushin. Omar.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
First of all, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right. My concerns is that I'm a resident of Garfield Terrace Seniors Apartments. I have been living here for 14 years. I have watched Garfield Terrace Apartments become neglected by DC Housing. This facility, this housing facility is meant to be served seniors, veterans, and those who are in need of rehabilitation services instead of being a healthy place for people in need. This has become an uninhabited dwelling for residents. After several reports to DC Housing Authority, nothing has been done to improve our quality of life. Number one likes, but the resident of Garfield apartments. Some of these residents comeback include infrastructure, infestation with roaches, rodents, and other varmints. This has been reported and hasn't been treated. The treatment has not lasted in effect to the infestation. That was when they sprayed in here for the roaches. The trash chute is closed and not available for use. It caused them to put trash cans in the hallways, and it is left behind roaches and other infestations that come. The ventilation system in the building is extremely poor. The elevators in the building are not equipped with the proper registration or maintenance. At least twice a month, an elevator is out of service. This is difficult maintenance, and at least a difficult maintenance for handicapped residents to be mobile throughout the building. The surrounding vacant buildings on the property makes other residents and myself feel unsafe and neglected. These abandoned dwellings have only increased infestation and of the property. Moving forward, I am not asking to be moved from my home. I am asking my home to be accommodated, but I am asking for accountability. The sign placed on by DCHA and Murrah Bowser on the front of the lawn. The department talks about accountability and integrity. These two things do not exist on a property where the mayor and DCHA and watch Black and brown seniors, veterans, and disabled citizens deteriorate. All that we ask is that you fix what is in front of us. The residents at Garfield Terrace Apartments are more than numbers. They are grandparents, soldiers, natives, and much more. Than placeholders for some future condos. Instead of gentrifying us through neglect, come to repair Garfield Terrace Apartments and integrity, accountability, and most important, for care. Also, they take out. Also beyond that, they gave me an audit. They sent me an audit, a personal audit, and my personal information that came from Tyrone Gard, Laurie Williams, and Artiana Sanders was audited. It was directly to me, delivered to me a month ago, on December the 31st. My personal information was put in envelopes, at least 100 envelopes, and circulated down there at Arthur Caper's new building to every single resident that used to live in this property. And I want to know why did that even happen? That's personal information for me. That's my personal information. I can't bring my camera on so I can show it. It was audited, and nothing was done, like literally.
Okay, Omar, so let me have the director respond. I'm not going to have him respond to the audit. That's a sensitive issue, but I'm going to ask that our general counsel connect with you to answer any concerns you have on the audit. But on the conditions of Garfield, either Director Garrett or Senthil, can you tell me what the plans are for renovations at Garfield Terrace?
Well, I can say this, Commissioners. First off, you know that we do property walks. We just walked within the last 45 days. Commissioner Talaferro and myself just walked that particular property. And some of the issues that Mr. Umar is citing, we did not see. And Commissioner Talaferro was with me when we went through that particular.
Well,
So,
let's
Mr.
do
Chair,
that.
do I have the
No,
Mr. Chair, do I have the opportunity to talk?
Omar, Mr. Omar,
Yeah.
can you just give him a chance to respond?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
So, Mr. Chair, as I stated to you, I'm not going to, once we make our statement, we're not going to respond to anything else. But we did walk the property. We did have, and I can recall, and I think some of the commissioners who have been at that property recall, there was an enormous stench about 1.5 years ago based on rodents being in that particular building. We went through Mr. Burke, and we created our rodent team, and they went in and they have dealt with the rodent infestations. If there is an individual resident who has an issue with an infestation, we always ask that they contact us directly. But as far as an overall rodent infestation within the building, we don't have that. We may have some individual issues that are, that a resident must call us and let us know, and we'll deal with it via individual work orders. No problem in doing that. And I don't know if Mr. Williams wants to discuss any more about some of the other issues that we're having at that particular building. One thing we have to keep in mind, commissioners, is that Garfield is an older building. And some of the issues with that particular building can't necessarily be addressed with Band-Aids. And that's something that we've been talking about wholeheartedly. We're trying our best to do daily maintenance on the building as best as we can, but there might be some big ticket capital items that actually need to be addressed and go well beyond the daily maintenance of a property, such as an elevator cab. I don't know.
Yeah.
Alex, I have Alex on the phone.
Well,
I don't want to belabor this.
I wasn't finished though. Before he cut me off, I wasn't really finished. I still had a few minutes, right?
Yeah, but Omar, hold 1 second. So Tyrone,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Executive Director, I wasn't trying to get into the weeds. I just want to know.
Oh, okay.
This is a building that needs rehab. Where is it in your cycle? Is it a year away, 2 years away, 3 years away, 5 years away? Like, when will the residents get relief?
So Alex, go ahead.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
well, right. So it is part of
Mr.
our
Allen.
transformation plan. Yes, sir.
Hey, Omar, I'm going to give you your time. Don't worry. I got you. I just wanted
This is really
to
quick, and
respond.
I'll just say
Yeah.
what I need to say, and I'll let Mr. Umar go back to talking. I just wanted to say that we have a elevator mod that we just put in for funding, and it's slated to start April 12th. So the elevator issues should be fully addressed after the gear and electronics are replaced on that building.
Thank you, Alex.
Untitled. Sure.
Well, okay, Mr. Omar, you have a minute to finish up. Go right ahead.
Yes, but like a minute. Okay, all right. But look, anyway, when they came up here and walked through, they didn't walk through this whole property. I followed right behind them. If that's the case, look, can we set up, to end all this, can we set up a walkthrough with you all? Tyrone Garrett came up here, him, Talaferro, all of them came up there. They didn't even speak to me. Him and Don, I'm the newly elected commissioner. They walked straight on past me. I asked them, what you doing? Oh, doing my job. But my thing is, why do we have them coming up here, walking through, not with us, so we can detect these problems? Tyrone Garrett walked through the problem, walk right through the building and say this, that. That wall that they got out there that they just said that they finished, it's not finished. It's still leaking. It's still a health hazard. The concrete that they said that they did, it hasn't been done. It hasn't been done. I would like for you, Mr. Albert, along with you all, with Dion Reader, and all you all walk through this building with me. There are roaches. I can show you a lot of rat dung all in the building right now. You got trash cans in the building.
We believe you. I believe you. So Umar, here's what we're gonna do. Our board secretary is with us, Alicia McNair. She is going to get me and Talaferro and the executive director and any other commissions that want to come to do a walkthrough again. We do regular walkthroughs at our properties. We will make sure that is on the list. I will let you know personally when we're coming out there so that you could be involved in the walkthrough. Does that work?
Yes, also, can we get our bylaws and budget that Karen Settles request also for the citywide advisory board?
For the citywide, I think so, but let me,
Bylaws
I
and the
don't know.
budget.
Yeah, I don't know the minutia of that, but I'm gonna have the executive director get back to you. But thank you. We have to move on to other people. All right, so next on our list is Olina Oliphant.
Good afternoon, everyone. I pray that
Good
everyone's
afternoon.
being safe. My concern is I live down here at the townhouses, Capital Townhouses, used to be Arthur Caper. I have to throw that in. My concern is about our maintenance. But as I was listening to the other people that were talking, about the training and the flyers and things that's coming down the pipeline, we're not getting any of that. We're not. We still have children down here that's graduating in school and things of that nature. And I know we're not getting anything far as training and things of that nature. So it needs to be an overseer over here for our low income and renters down here, so our children and our residents down here can get some information so that we can still be in the loop that we are still low income families down here. And maintenance, I really need to talk on maintenance. We have mice. That they are called field mice, and they're running outside. So our bins that we put our trash in is like a housing for them. And I have a lady that lives in 401 has been complaining about mice for I don't know how long. So I talked to the resident. I talked to the resident manager, and he told me that they had went in there and laid some stuff down for the mice. But I talked to the resident. The resident said she didn't want them coming in there laying things down for the mice because she has a special need child. She's special needs. And it's just irritating that she knocks on my door trying to figure out what can she do next about these mice running in her house. She had ants at first, and I told her to get some salt and put salt down and keep they special. And what I'm trying to say is the resident manager is not listening to her. So she calls me. She got all these boxes up against her pantry trying to keep the mice from running in and out of her house. So I called the resident manager and I told him, I said, look, can you just plug the hose up? Well, we can't. Well, anyway, I'm not going to repeat what he said. Judge Judy said, I don't want to hear anything somebody else said. I need somebody to make sure that this lady house is mouse free and our halls are not being kept. I don't want them to come in here every week, every day to clean the hall. I just need them to come and clean our halls every now and then. And I've been here 12 years. I have asked them several times to fix my doorbell. My toilet is broke. It broke Friday, and I'm still waiting for them to come and fix my toilet. The maintenance is horrible.
So Ms. Oliphant, I appreciate you sharing your findings with us. I'm going to ask Mr. Williams to connect with you offline.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I just need to clarify for the public and for the Board of Commissioners, this particular property isn't managed by the DCHA. And it's unlike the CIH properties, which we have been taking back. This is one of our tax credit. This is a tax credit property under Edgewood Management. So it's a totally separate environment at Arthur Caper in terms of management. Their contract actually is expiring this year. So that is another contract that we're looking at possibly taking control of. But I shouldn't have put that out there. But I need the Board of Commissioners to know that that is not a property that we manage on a daily basis. We will contact them and make sure that they know that these issues are present. If they have not addressed them, we will ask that they do. But we also are looking at what our other options might be in the future, similar to what we've done with other properties that were third-party managed.
But they're managing it on behalf of DCHA,
No,
correct?
no, sir. Not in this particular instance.
Okay.
No, they're not. That's the distinction I wanted to make between what we've done with CIH, who was managing on behalf of DCHA, versus this particular tax credit property in this particular vein. It's a private management company, privately owned, so to speak.
So, Mr. Garrett, what advice would you give to Ms. Oliphant?
No, I'm going to follow up on it for her. I'm going to follow up directly. And then I think there's some steps. You know, one of the things that I talk about all the time is that when we have these type of relationships with development partners, is that on the management side, the best thing for the DCHA to do is control that component, because when residents have issues and problems like this, they come to us. So I want to be in a position to control. So I'm going to deal with her issue directly. I'll call the management company myself to talk to them about what's going on and how we might be able to assist them.
Mr. Garrett,
Okay.
I hear you. I thank you so very much. But do you know we're the first property that we need to be, we need to address this before the other properties come aboard. You know what I'm saying? We are the first property that's sharing, you know, with the other rental and homeowners down here. So our property is supposed to be an example for the newer ones that's coming aboard.
All right, so we'll get a report back. We'll get a report back from Mr. Garrett. Thank you so much, Ms. Oliphant. So I know Jose Ortiz had a question, and then Bill Slover.
Actually, it was no question. Mr. Luther's
Hello?
not in the. Yes, I did have a question. I wanted to acknowledge Mr. Luther. He's not here, but I actually had a pretty great experience when I went to Garfield and see what he's doing. So Garfield has a good man there doing pretty great work. I went to the roof and I saw what he's doing, and I know he was kind of screaming here, but I really suggest that any commissioner go and take a look what he's doing there. I think you will be pretty inspired by it. So that was it. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that and acknowledging the work that our team at DCHA is doing. Commissioner Slover.
So I think the issue that we just heard from that resident is one that has been around for a while and has been a concern I think a number of us on the board have raised as we move through this redevelopment process and repositioning process. I don't see a path in these mixed finance deals. At least it's been described to us as a difficult path for DCHA to be the manager of those projects. And so I see you shaking your head, Mr. Garrett. We were told on a number of occasions.
No. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Well, let's have a dialogue here. So let's have Mr. Slover ask his question, and then you can respond.
Right.
It's just been described in the past that because of the way that the funding comes in, whether it's LIHTC or whether it's private financing or the development partner or whomever it is, there's traditionally been a resistance or reluctance or an inability for DCHA to be the day-to-day manager of the properties. And oftentimes it doesn't not make sense because we're not actually the majority tenant. If it's 30% of the units are replacement public housing and 70% are affordable or market rate, then we really don't have a leg to stand on to manage the project. So I think it's an important thing for the board to really get an understanding as we move into these different types of ownership structures and redevelopment structures, what the reality is in terms of us managing the project and then being able to address resident concerns when they come to the board because we don't manage the project.
Right.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you get an answer when you respond. But Bill, I think all of us that have been on the board understand the nuances that you just pointed out. Many people have been on this board longer than I have been on the board. So I don't know that I know where you're going and it's well intentioned. I don't know that to suggest that we need to get an understanding is the right framing. I think we need to get to a policy position as a board, and I think that's where you're going with this, and I support you on that because we get these concerns raised ever so frequently, and I asked the question: is there not a role for DCHA in this? You heard the response from Mr. Garrett. So I think we have to, as a board, think through what the policy should be with regard to these mixed use developments and maintenance. Because Mr. Garrett just said, he's not in charge, but we have residents complaining here at our board meeting. So we got to figure out what truly our role is. But Mr. Garrett, you can respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify for the board and for the public, my approach to redevelopment opportunities where we have partners is for us to take control of management components. An example of that would be Parkway Overlook, where before I came on board, there was a third-party manager created for that particular, brought on for that particular project at Parkway Overlook. I met with them on the first day and I knew that it wasn't going to last. So within 12 months, DCHA had taken over that particular management opportunity at that site. One thing I do want to point out, Commissioner Slover, there may have been other individuals who have pushed back within the organization about the opportunity for management of these particular properties, and you may still continue to hear that from certain individuals, but you're never going to hear that from me. And my staff can attest that I want to take every opportunity to manage a property no matter what. So the pushback, if there is any pushback, the pushback comes from me because, in fact, members of the team didn't think that we were going to be approved by Wells Fargo to take over Parkway Overlook. But I went ahead and put together the package and the submission, and we have control of that particular property now. So that's my goal when we go into development deals, is that we should be able to manage properly those particular sites. And you may hear pushback from other people, but that's not my philosophy at all.
I appreciate that, Mr. Garrett, and I love your enthusiasm. I just know that reality is that management is an enormous economic reason for a lot of people to get into these deals and these mixed finance deals. And since there's no exit strategy on some of these properties, the money is in the development, the building, the construction, and then the ongoing management. And so I just want us to be eyes wide open about how difficult of a road that is. And the reality is it's going to be a challenge for the agency, as aspirational as we are in terms of wanting to do that. It's going to be a challenge for us to control that component of it. And I think the board needs to really start getting comfortable with that, because we haven't done a lot of these mixed finance things. Most of the stuff we've done so far has been not in the vein of Arthur Capper. And so we're now venturing into a much different vein where we're trying to bring Berry Farm online, and Greenleaf and all these others. Are going to be much different structure. So again, I love your enthusiasm. I would love to just get an eyes wide open presentation on it. So sorry to take up so much time, Neil.
Yeah, and Bill, I think we should do I think it's time well spent, quite candidly. I think we should, maybe brainstorm as a board or brainstorm with the staff on what is the best path forward. So I don't want to put another thing on their plate right now, but let's make sure that we keep that in mind this year. All right, so let's move ahead. Next up is Wanda Davis. Wanda Davis.
Good afternoon, panel. My concern is why I'm at this meeting is the security on the property of Montana. The concern that I have since I've been here, it's been the same activity every day, day in and day out. It's like this is a property where you have your cars, your car wash, and everybody that comes up here that used to live on the property but don't no longer live on the property. I would like to know, why is it that Housing Authority has not sent housing police officers up here to monitor this property? Also, my other question is, you have MPD living on the property. They see the activity, but it's like they turn their heads. You have a 4-bedroom unit which is being occupied that could be for a family that could use it, but housing police are there and they're just doing their job as police officers on the street, but not monitoring what's going on up here, or they just don't care what's going on up here. You have a car wash. You have people that don't live up here that parks they start parking up here like about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and they don't leave until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You know what type of activities that I'm speaking about. And it's every day. I've been on this property for several years, and it hasn't changed that one thing. Nothing has changed. It's the same thing day in and day out. And I want to know what it is that you're going to do about it. This property is about to be renovated. This is what's going to happen when you bring the residents that leave, that come back? Is it going to be like this? Or are you going to make some type of change?
Okay, so Ms. Davis, let me give the executive director an opportunity to respond to your concerns. And I know our chief is with us also, and so he may share responsibility in responding. But let's start with our executive director.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I was going to ask Chief Maupin to respond since there was a question about our officers and their patrolling that particular property, along with the use of MPD officers.
Well, good afternoon, board. And good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, over at the Montana property, there are some challenges we do recognize. We had worked on removing that car wash once before. I'm kind of upset to hear that it has returned. We do have MPD officers that reside on the property in our residential program, but their job is not necessarily to patrol the community. Their job is to provide us with information and intelligence on different things that's going on in the community, and they do a great job of that. It's led to several warrants being served there and removal of some tenants. Our officers do patrol the property. We've been working with using the camera system on the property to do things also. For a long period of time, the problem stemmed from across the street at the rec center. We're trying to help in relieving that issue, but unfortunately it moves some of the activity over to our lots. So we've been working on that with removing that. We have some successes, but we know we got a little ways to go over there.
Thank you, Chief.
So Chief, so you say you know about the car wash activity for a while, and some of the other activity.
Hello?
So like what is the sustained effort that you're undertaking to prevent these activities from occurring, or at least to minimize the impact on our residents?
Well, certainly increasing the patrols, we'll try to do that with the warm weather coming on. Things are starting up again. We addressed the car wash activity a while back, but according to the resident, it has come back again. So we'll get back on that. We were dealing with the individual that was doing that, using his residence water spigot to wash people's cars. So we'll address that again. With the warm weather coming on, we know that activity is going to start back up on all of our properties. So Montana is certainly one that we'll be addressing also.
Thank you. So next is
question. I have one other question as well, as far as the parking permits for the back. We have residents that claim parking spaces with their trash cans. I thought that parking place back there for Montana was for anybody to park. I would like to park in front of my home, but I can't because of the cars that are up here. So I have to find a spot back there in the back on the parking lot to park, but I can't just park anywhere because they're not doing anything about them claiming parking spaces that are not theirs, putting their trash cans in, and they need to do something about that. The resident manager has sent out notices back here a year or so ago, but it's just like they ignored the notice and they continue to do that.
Right. Okay. So Tyron, do you know the issue she's talking about, and you need to follow up with her later? How do we respond to this?
I can follow up with her later, but that'll be a combination of myself and Chief Maupin to see whether or not we can issue summons or tickets.
And do you have her contact info to follow?
Yeah, we have it. We have it from the list of speakers, the speakers list.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Davis. Next is Shanta Hai. Ms. Hai.
Okay, just 1 second. Coming.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Okay, I just want to make sure, this is Ms. Matthews. I want to make sure I'm being able to be heard when my time is called. That's all.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
just
call
checking.
you. All right, thanks
I
for
had to
checking.
check.
We'll call you.
Thank you.
Miss High.
Okay, can you see and hear me?
We could see and hear you, yes.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. I just want to take a moment to thank Commissioner Neil Albert and Executive Director Tyrone Garrett and their staff for taking time to meet with me and my team and I to discuss the Part 1 equity plan further, in further detail. Thank you to Commissioner Bill Slover for his continued support and being the Commissioner of Reason and Logic. I also want to take a moment to thank Mr. Brian Harris for reaching out to me yesterday, and also to my resident, Ms. Shannon Morning, to inform us about the virtual vendors contracting opportunity happening next month that Mr. Garrett spoke about today. I'm currently working on my strongly worded proposal to present to DCHA that I'll have my legal team review before presenting to the attention of Executive Director Garrett. Again, I want to thank Mr. Garrett for finally listening by accepting the responsibility and knowing that your public housing voucher and senior residents need to be prepared for future disasters. In doing this, you will assist with uplifting a woman-led, Black-owned, disadvantaged, disabled HUD Section 3 business developed under the Part 1 Equity Plan. And as a reminder, there have been 2 for-profit businesses and 2 nonprofits created under the Part 1 Equity Plan. Proverbs 19:20, listen to advice and accept instruction that you may gain wisdom in the future. And the DC City Council members have proposed that DCHA receive $60 million by October 1st, 2021. This money can be used for repairs and development. However, it needs to be directed towards the PMEP self-sufficiency program and temporary housing for redevelopment, which is different from Bill First. We want a portion of this money for the development of cooperatives or co-ops for the residents to be able to remain and some to return to our communities. Let's continue working towards resolutions to put the people first. And lastly, I submitted my recertification papers digitally. It was confirmed by our property manager, Ms. Betty Diallo, said that she received them after it failed 4 times due to your servers, DCHA servers, not being able to accept large files. Due to the COVID pandemic with 5 variants being located in 46 states, why doesn't the digital copy suffice when all of the documents to support the application have been included? Why aren't your servers up to the task of receiving all of the documents that are required to certify? So go green, save our trees by eliminating the need to print and make copies that will need to be discarded later on or recycled. Please get back to me with answers ASAP. I thank you for your time. I'm Ms. Shantae High, President of the Council at Park Morton.
Thank you, Ms. High, and I look forward to continuing our dialogue with you next week. But thanks for pointing out that in 2021, you can't upload your stuff without the server scratching. What's up with that? So that's a rhetorical Brooklyn question. But Mr. Executive Director, I've heard this concern a couple of times. You know, I don't know when we're going to go back to having people walk their paper, hopefully never, into our offices. And so I just think we need to make sure that we have the right infrastructure to deal with the volume of information that we are required to keep. So you don't have to comment on it. It's just my comment. And thanks, Ms. High, for raising it.
Yes.
All right, Paulette Matthews. Ms. Matthews.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. I made several attempts. I apologize for just butting in like that, but I had to call back like 5 different times just to be able to have my voice be heard. I would like to say hello to everybody, and I would also like to welcome Miss Rita. It's been a long time. I heard you were coming. You finally arrived. My concern is maintenance. Maintenance along with third party. Ever since we've been talking about maintenance, it's always some type of excuse about why the maintenance hasn't been done. A lot of the issues that have been brought up were issues that came way before Corona. I don't know whether or not there are properly staffed at the DC Housing Authority, just like forever I've heard about the police department not being staffed. My topics today were actually going to be on maintenance and the police department and Berry Farms. And what I would like to ask of the board and DC Housing Authority, if y'all can implement a monthly report by the chief, because there's a lot of things going on. And I think sometimes the staff has even been trying to say, call the Metropolitan Police. And my question always be, if that's the case, why do we have a DC Housing Authority, especially for an incident where my dog got hit because of the improper offense that I had by a gentleman. And at the time, I was instructed by the security to call MPD when there were 3 police in the back room. And once I continued to talk, they manifest themselves, and nothing had never been done. Far as the maintenance issues, when you call and you get a control number, they ask you questions about Corona. I'm a little confused and baffled to whether or not there is this emergency thing. They say we're only doing emergencies. Well, why are they asking me questions if nobody's going to come? And then you really don't know what's going to happen, because they're asking you whether you have a fever, have you been around anybody with Corona, this, that, and the third, and you won't see nobody, and they don't even let you know that, oh, well, they're only taking emergency tickets. And then what does DC Housing Authority classify as an emergency? Because as long these issues, like I said, was before Corona, so they get worse. And then even with them taking all that information from you, I believe there's an 8-hour shift. I don't know how many people are in maintenance on staff, but if you got them here for 8 hours and there's calls coming in and they might not deem it to be an emergency, then I feel like they should still come and look and see what's going on. So when whatever is lifted, then they can come in with the supplies. Or if you don't have that skilled person working on your property per se, and you got them bouncing here and there in the third, they can pretty much have a leeway to where or what they're going to do next, get the supplies so that once it is lifted, people won't be sitting up here saying, oh, well, we don't have it in the warehouse, and oh, you got to wait till this, because some things I know, a few of mine has been since 2019. And so, here we sit waiting for things to transpire, but they, never do. So I just think that the police chief should give a report every month. I think that any property that's being redeveloped like Berry Farms, and also out the capers, because of the property that has not been rebuilt yet, that shouldn't be something that we have to ask each and every time. That should be just put in the format of what's taking place, because we're all out here wondering what's next, how it's going to be done, and they moved us all out. But they keep talking about, well, we're on phase 1 and the senior building and this, that, and the other, but they moved all of us out, and they spreaded us all throughout the District of Columbia, and it's not easy. It's more hardship and harm than anything. And then they drop the ball. Like, I'm tired of seeing all these drop balls, brick walls, and we now keep hearing Corona, Corona, Corona. I don't know how long we're going to have to live with this, but we've almost been in this a year, and people are out here going through it. And then they talk about the repayment program. Repayment. You can't even get people to fix stuff. You can't even get them to get rid of the rodents. And, it sounds good. Oh, we did. Mr. Gurr talking about the program. How many people from that program came from the redevelopment sites, from Berry Farms or any other? How many are in the class? How often is the class? The guy said that he gave his 2 weeks notice, like he quit his job, like this is the job that he's getting paid for. There's just so many different things. And then the flyers just going out. And then I heard the lady say teamwork. It's like, I get teamwork, but communication is the key. And it's almost like things go into one ear, to this ear, to that ear, to this ear, and action is not done because we still sit here each day with the same concerns, the same situations, and the same problems. And Mr. Garrett, no harm intended, and Mr. Williams, and whomever, y'all make it seem like everything is smooth, and it's not. It really isn't. And then the
Ms.
fact
Matthews,
that this has been the
could you bring it home?
Yes, I'm going to do it now. This has been the history of what's going on, and we have officials and people who take position have heard the story, heard the songs, and we're still doing the same thing. Us as human beings can't seem to get it together. I don't know why, but they need to resolve some of this. And that maintenance thing, I would like for somebody to please explain to me the maintenance and why the chief does not give a monthly report. And I have some ADA issues, but I'm going to leave it alone. I wish I had as much time as y'all have to talk. Y'all don't even understand. The people who had to put it in 5 minutes, that was a burden for somebody to do because the issues are that great. I wish we had y'all time to speak.
Well, Ms. Matthews, we appreciate you sharing your concerns with us. Let me give our executive director a minute or so to respond.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Paul, Ms. Matthews, for your comments. One thing I want to point out is that this isn't the same agency it was 3 years ago, and things have changed. Although we are not perfect by any stretch of the we are not any stretch of the imagination. We are not perfect. I think Mr. Williams has something teed up that he can show in reference to some of the things that we're actually doing, and this kind of goes to oh wow, this is Arthur Capper Senior that we received pictures on that. So we can just go through this real quickly, Larry, if you can get to some of Ms. Matthews' issues also. Larry, you're on mute. But again, commissioners, we're not the same agency we were 3 years ago.
Yeah. Larry, do you want to go through this real quickly?
You're on mute, Larry. You're going to have to call in or do something. Sunita, can you take him off?
We can address the chief issue now until he gets there on the
Shanita,
issue.
Shanita, can you take Larry off, please? Chief, can you come off?
Yes, I can come off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get Larry off real quick. Yeah, thank you. And I could show, if you want to take the time, I could show the monthly report, current monthly report.
No, I don't know that we.
The reality is we can actually, Chief, you know what we'll do? We'll start doing. We'll start taking your monthly report and uploading it for the public to be able to see, along with whatever board report I give, on a monthly basis. Since you do have it. But so Ms. Matthews, we do have a board. We do have a OPS report that we provide on a monthly basis. We'll just make it public.
And then, Chief, if you can just follow up with Ms. Matthews sometime this week or next week and just share with her what you're doing, I think I would appreciate that.
Yes, no problem.
Great.
Okay.
All right,
so Larry, do me a favor, Larry. Go through the slides. I'll do it. I'll do it myself. So we have the Arthur Capper Senior Building. You can see that we've gone over there to inspect and make sure that it's being maintained properly. Hit the next one, Larry.
I'm unmuted. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, you got it now. Go.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to quickly touch base on a few things. So the Capper Senior Building is cleaned 3 times a day. Just like the other DCHA properties. I've asked them to send me pictures daily, like we do DCHA's properties, and they are doing that on a daily basis. So those are some of the pictures that they shared with me, and this was early this morning that they shared it with me. So these pictures are from today. Also, there had been a concern about green leaves fencing, and I wanted to show the reason that we were removing some of the fences, which we will replace. If you can see on the screen, there is damage throughout these different fences. So we are removing them, and we also will be replacing them in the spring. So if you get a call about us removing, we've sent out notices and we've let them know that we're removing them, but we're removing them due to the damage on the fences. As it relates to Lincoln Heights, I just wanted to touch base really quick on the locks that we replaced. there was a concern that the locks were not replaced. These are before and after pictures that you can see that all the locks there has been replaced. So we are going through that throughout majority of the family properties to make sure that the buildings are locked and safe. Lastly, I will get to Ms. Matthews' concerns. Since March of 2020, PMO has generated 13,553 routine work orders. Out of that number, we've executed a total of 11,093, leaving a total of open work orders, currently routine work orders, 2,460. I want to stop here and spend a little bit of time there. We have executed these work orders during the pandemic. We started executing the routine work orders as of November of this year. So yes, we have some that are outstanding, but I think the PMO staff has done an outstanding job operating within COVID and keeping everyone safe. That is the total amount of work orders that we have outstanding to date. I also want to go to Ms. Matthews' fence. That was a up and going issue for quite some time. As you can see on the picture, the fence has been installed. This was an ADA approval. We installed the fence. More importantly, as it relates to the concerns that Ms. Matthews has about us screening people when we call, we screen every single resident because we want to make sure that we are being safe as well as the residents is being safe. So the reason that we ask those questions is because we want to make sure that when we go in the unit, we're doing all the safety precautions to execute the work order. Now, I follow up.
I'm not screening the call, sir. That's not the problem that I'm having with that. I have no problem
Ms.
with
Matthews,
that.
if you can let me finish.
Ms. Matthews, could you let him finish?
Okay, thank you. I'll mute myself because I was wondering why I was thinking about the fences and stuff. I asked like that.
As it relates to, again, in Ms. Matthews' individual work orders, I do follow up and check in monthly to ensure that if she has outstanding work orders, what is the plan to get them done? So we are in the last phase of executing the remainder of the work orders that was left over from when we were not doing routine work orders. So we should be able to address any and all outstanding work orders going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So Larry, the
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams.
Larry, the 2460 is based on work orders that we weren't able to get to from the beginning of COVID, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're playing catch up from when we weren't entering any units at all.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, guys. If you can take your screen down, that would be helpful to my old eyes. Just trying to make sure that we call everyone. We had Vicki Harris. Let's just go back on the list. Is Vicki Harris with us? Nope. Adrian Herbert. Denise Blackson. All right, let's go to Danielle.
Thank you, commissioners. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. I have a couple of questions and a couple of points that I'd like to make. I do have questions specifically on the elections that are taking place, or will they take place, resident council elections specifically, but also the resident elected board members. How is that going to be handled? When will they happen? How will residents vote? I think that's important that there is enough lead time put out there for those that are interested in stepping up or, re-upping on their, in their position as a tenant leader. I think that would be very important. So any information that can be shared would be appreciated on that. I have to once again raise up the issue around property managers. I continue to hear, so one of my jobs really is to facilitate residents being on these platforms, the monthly Board of Commissioners meetings, the oversight hearings, the budget hearings. And I continue to hear from residents that as soon as somebody's on that list, they get calls from their property managers, talking about what's happening. And while I can appreciate that, okay, it's a red flag to say what's happening with this resident, it can also be taken as intimidation because those property managers aren't calling at other times, especially when residents are asking questions and are not getting the same answer. So I would hope that I think we continue to experience issues where residents feel intimidated by this kind of very specific follow-up to their concerns. So that's something that I wanted to flag for this board to see if you all could deal with that as well. And two last quick pieces. One is I know that a lot of the meetings you all hold, especially around the Melvo redevelopment, are being recorded and are being placed on YouTube. Let me just flag that there have been concerns from several residents that I'm working with on those properties that they feel like they're they don't want to be out there necessarily like that. So I think it's important to let residents know that it is being recorded. It is being placed on YouTube where essentially anyone with a link, I think, can find that. There's some domestic violence issues that folks just don't want their face and location out there. There was some gossip that was being talked, and I think it was an unfortunate situation where a mic wasn't muted. But nonetheless, I think we have to be sensitive to folks' privacy when these meetings are being recorded. I do think it's important that we have those records up for the wider community to see. But, these nuanced concerns are out there, and I wanted to raise those up. If I could just lastly, a quick question. I have a resident who just called me as we were on here who had sent a large check to chip away at her balance. Only it was a rather sizable check. Only a small percentage of that, or half of it, has been posted to her account, right, to her ledger. She's still not seeing like over $1,000 deducted from the balance she had. So she's been following up directly with the property managers, but has not been getting, any answers to like why is her balance still as high as it appears. So I would like to ask, who can she
Danielle, can you
deal with?
email Director Garrett the person's information and he will get on top of it?
Okay, I
So
will.
Dan, I just want to say thank you for what you do and your consistency. I think we wouldn't hear a number of these issues unless we talk to the residents directly or we have these board meetings. But the role that you play, I think, it's a good one, not just for the residents you represent, but for the team at DCHA. Thanks for raising the resident council elections issue. I'm going to see if our executive director or Larry Williams can actually respond to your questions.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a couple of things. Larry can talk about the, Mr. Williams can talk about the resident elections because we have been discussing that. The one thing I do want to point out, commissioners, is that when we do see individuals that have signed up to speak at the public meeting, we are being proactive, and that's all it is, being proactive to try to find out what their particular issue is. Because oftentimes you've heard me say at these particular meetings that a resident doesn't have to wait until a board meeting to reach out if they have a particular issue or a problem. And sometimes when a resident puts their name on the list, we don't even know what the problem is. It hasn't really been brought to our attention, so it's proactive. And in addition, we never deter anyone from speaking at the Board of Commissioners meeting. If you see that there's an issue and a problem, and you want to figure out a way to address it, why not meet it head on and contact that individual up front? They still have the opportunity to come back to you the very next day or within days of a board meeting and still speak and give us, everything that they want to give us on issues and problems, if it worked well, if it didn't work well. But if we don't know about it, if we can't engage that particular resident, we'll have no way of creating a particular solution for them. And as far as we went through this resident engagement component, we thought taping the meetings would be best. And I think that was one of the suggestions that came from from Commissioner Van Gossary, so we could put them on YouTube. That was one of the things she told us to do. So, you can't, for everything that we do, there is always going to be an additional cause and effect. But our attempts to...
I think what Daniel is saying, he's not saying not to put them on YouTube, just be mindful. Just make sure that you're notifying people that this could be in the public domain because it's on YouTube. And so if people want to opt out of it, they can have the opportunity to opt out of it. I'm not saying, Dan, you're not suggesting that we discontinue that.
No, exactly. I think it's on both of those points is communication, right? When a property manager is calling someone, I mean, I think they need to directly say, we are not deterring you from speaking at these meetings. We're just checking in, right? Because once again, like it or not, there is a pretty bad record of people feeling intimidated. So we need to work on that. And then, yeah, I think, these meetings that are being recorded, I think they're important to have. I'm a nerd. I like sitting and watching those and getting information. So they're important, but I think letting folks know, if you don't, this is being recorded. If you would not like to be, on, you can make that decision. Mute, change your name on the Zoom or have that requested, stay off camera, and give your input, but certainly not saying that, they need to be taken away or anything.
And I believe that is part of our opening script for every meeting. But if it is not, on the ones that I participated in, that has been the opening script. If it is not, I'll make sure that Mr. Robinson ensures that it is for anyone that's opening up a public meeting dealing with our residents directly. Mr. Williams, you just want to talk about the resident election process and what has been and how we've been noticed by the third party monitor.
Sure. So the elections will take place. There is a meeting that's going to take place with at the Resident Services Committee to initially talk about it there, and then we'll also brief the rest of the board members and the Operations Committee. But there is some questions that the third party monitor has for the board to ensure that the changes that they need to make is acceptable to them so that we can proceed with the election. I would share my screen, but if I share my screen, I go on mute, and I didn't want to go on mute and not be able to unmute myself. But there is a path forward. The third party monitor has been selected, and they have outlined the process, and they will be presenting at the Resident Services Committee meeting this month.
So the election is going to happen on time this year. Is COVID going to impact it in any way?
We believe that if the Board of Commissioners approve what the recommendations are, yes, it will be able to happen this year, and it will not delay the election based on some of the recommendations they want to do.
Yeah. Ken, did you have a question? Mr. Council? Okay, great. Daniel, thank you so much, as usual.
Thank you.
Next is Georgia Blankenship. Georgia? Okay, well, that concludes our list of residents that have and non-residents that have signed up for today's meeting. I just want to thank everyone for participating. Thanks to our Board of Commissioners for all the time and service that they put into the board. Welcome to our newest board member.
Excuse me, is Deborah Frazier here, and I signed up to testimony too.
Oh, go right ahead, Ms. Frazier. Sorry, I overlooked you.
Is there anybody left that we eliminated?
No, you go right ahead.
Time for me?
Ms. Frazier, take your shot.
Okay, here we go. First, kudos to Polly Donaldson. She is the, in my mind, the only trustworthy and dedicated housing official in the city. Polly gives it to you straight and she answers good questions. She has no turnaround. So I want to appreciate Polly for her presentation and for coming. So, first, the system to testify and participate in the Board of Commissioners meetings is still broken. I mentioned this for residents last month. You guys aren't getting it. It's still broken. One, resolutions that we get to comment on didn't come up on the website until this morning. That's a problem, people. Can we correct that? Because it's hard to comment on a resolution you don't have. So can we make the resolution come up before the day of the Board of Commissioners meeting? Secondly, in order to sign into
Deborah, Deborah,
What?
it comes up before the day of the meeting, at least 2 days before the meeting,
Not
and sometimes.
because myself and friends and some people in the silos at the Housing Authority were unable Thursday and Friday to find the resolutions on the website. Okay?
Okay.
That's our
I mean,
real life experience.
Okay, no, I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying our practice is for it to be, we're required by BEGA requirements to have it up at least 48 hours before. And I tend to check. Now, I didn't check in this one, so it may have lapsed, but go right ahead. I'm stealing your time and
But
thunder.
what we're supposed to do and what we do are two different things, and I'm here to tell you that. Secondly, in terms of being able to testify, again, roadblocks. Calling what I call the board secretary, never get a return call month after month on how I sign up to testify. Some of us are not computer savvy and we can't get it. So one, posting the resolutions and ensuring that on a timely basis. Second, a clearer path to testify. So that's a problem. Second issue is the newsletter for the
Deborah,
Housing Choice.
Deborah, any
What?
suggestions on what would make a clearer path to testifying?
I do not have the tech, so I'm really not sure. There could be, I'm not sure what would make it easier for people to access it. Maybe, I'm really not sure what the tech looks like because I can't access it myself. I just know it's not working. So somebody can bring that out because y'all good at that. Second,
Yeah, no, I agree. So we can work on that together because you're not the only one that has that challenge.
Good. And that may be why we're losing some of the people who signing up to testify, and you're losing them. 7 or 8 people you called and they weren't able to connect. So we need a better training for us to participate with that. Second, Housing Choice Voucher newsletter. We requested the newsletter. We were on the list. Housing Choice Voucher kicked the can down to Ms. Goodman at OPA, who said the voucher people were entering the data incorrectly on another system. So she was working for those systems to talk. Still have not received a Housing Choice Voucher newsletter. This is a systems problem. I think systems should talk to each other, but something needs to be done so the voucher people in the voucher program can get the information to OPA so we can receive the newsletter. Third, testing. Lots of wonderful talk that the board has about who we're testing, where we're testing, and how wonderful is the testing. What is the plan for the Housing Choice Voucher 11,000 people to get vaccines? I recently discovered that PAMRA and the D.C. Department of Health were on the Arthur K. Department yesterday. They vaccinated because the mayor is anxious to get the seniors done. They vaccinated the seniors at 410, 138 people. The senior building, 1 block away, was not included in that. So there are, even with your vaunted, oh, how wonderful we're going to test, there are holes in this testing. You all please need to tighten that up. And there could be on the website a list of where people can go to test so that we can figure out. But you're doing public housing, you're doing senior buildings, and us voucher holders are left out of that process. Can we please correct that? Third,
okay. So you gotta bring it home now.
Yeah, third is coming on home. An ongoing problem, Larry Williams, which is overhoused residents. Mr. Williams, you were working on a list of places and properties where residents were over the house. Personal experience is at least 6 units at Arthur Capers where there's a single person in a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment and been there for a long time. As we seek to house our residents and work with our families, there needs to be more action on getting people who are overhoused out of the apartments they are in that they don't need and getting them into a different kind of structure. This is an ongoing problem. Some of the issues that were mentioned on our property in terms of maintenance and other kinds of issues are being perpetrated or being done by people who are single residents in a multi-bedroom unit. What else I got? That's it. I think that's it. That's the major things that I need to have. Oh, and we're waiting, not anxiously, but we are waiting for another new commissioner to join the board, and that's the Housing Choice Voucher person. Mr. Albert is working hard on that. The rest of you need to know that we are unable as voucher holders to vote on our person. You guys are, and that makes us extremely out of the loop and extremely non-represented, and that is unfair taxation when our representation is what it feels like over here. So if any of the rest of y'all commissioners could stick a needle in the mayor or whoever it is so we can get a voucher holder here. You see there are issues that our community is complaining about, and it would be nice to have somebody to represent us. Thank you.
Ms. Fraser, thanks for your testimony. So just for the record, Ms. Fraser, myself, and voucher recipients meet on a monthly basis until there is a voucher commissioner on our board, and my promise is to continue to do so that the issues of that community is represented here on the board. So, but thanks so much, Ms. Fraser, as usual. We have a question from Mr. Slover.
I appreciate you bringing up the overhoused issue. That's something that came out in a analysis about a year or so ago. Maybe it was longer. I think that is the place we need to look at and understand why we can't do better on that. I think the pushback before was we didn't want to make people move out of units, but it seems, given the extent of our problem, if somebody's in a 2 or 3 bedroom unit, it's a single person. I think as a board, we need to get our arms around the magnitude of that issue and whether we want to do something different on that front or not. So hopefully we can get that analysis.
Bill, and I think this, I don't think we're the only housing authority that has this issue. I'm sure someone has figured out a solution, some matrix management solution or some solution to how you do it. But you're right, this is an issue that I know we've talked about in my prior time of service on this board and in my current time of service on this board. And it is one of those things that I think we need to stop talking about and do something about. So thanks for raising that. And so I'm hoping that the director and his team are taking notes so that we can address this issue. But again, Ms. Fraser, thanks for raising it. And Bill, thanks for echoing that. So we're truly going to end this meeting now. I appreciate everyone's time and participation. Our next Board of Commissioners meeting will be held Wednesday, April 14, 2020. Unfortunately, we're still going to have to do it via WebEx. And until then, our meeting is adjourned, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.